Maybe heard a bit about EMDR, but you're still not quite sure what it is and how it may help you. You're in the right place because in this video, we'll explore all of that. Hi, I'm Stacyann Forrester, astrologer for women releasing old ways of being while embracing their unique paths forward. And so before I forget, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified when new videos go live. So I'm here with licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in EMDR, Mpho Paris. Welcome, Mpho.
Hi, Stacyann. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So before we go any further, we have to define EMDR. I know when I try to explain EMDR to friends and family members, I always get stuck on the acronym. So what is EMDR, and can you also share with us some of its benefits?
Sure, no problem. I get stuck on the acronym too. So the E is for I, then movement, then desensitization, and reprocessing. So that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
I love EMDR. I just want to start out by saying that. EMDR was developed by Francine Shapiro. She was a grad student, and the story is that she was walking one day thinking about something distressing, and her eyes started moving back and forth. By the time she was done with the walk, the distressing thought had gone away. And she was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. So she was in grad school and she decided to work with, I think, sexual assault victims and Vietnam veterans about how the eyes can perhaps help with distressing thoughts. So that's how first it was called EMD, and then they decided to do the reprocessing. So
And but what about what year was this? Did she kind of come up with?
I think it was like 1987, around that
Okay, so
time. Yeah,
still fairly
it's
new.
fairly new. Yeah, it's fairly new treatment.
Uh-huh.
So she did all her studies in that, and it's evidence-based, it's proven to work. And so the eye movement, and desensitization is about desensitizing the body because trauma gets stuck in the body. And then the reprocessing is reprocessing the trauma in your brain. Okay. So I always like to start, educating my clients first, about trauma. Okay. Trauma is something that happens to you in your life, a disturbing event that changes the way that you see the world and that you see yourself. And so with that, you start to begin to think that people are bad, the world is bad, and then you're unsafe. And a lot of people don't realize that that's how they're walking in the world.
Yeah.
But when we start to talk, we're like, okay, yes, you see everything as someone's, going to attack you, or et cetera. So with trauma, did you have a question? Okay.
I was gonna. I'm sure you were gonna get to it, but
Sure.
I've heard people talk about like the big T trauma and little T trauma, and because sometimes when we think of trauma, we think of the worst possible things,
Sure.
like being in war
Yep.
or being assaulted, sexually
Yep.
assaulted.
Yep.
But there's other types of trauma,
Sure,
right?
sure. There can be definitely other types of trauma. There could be just witnessing some stuff, right? Witnessing domestic violence as a kid. There could be childhood bullying, and it might not be, beating, getting beat up. It could be just being harassed at work, right? It could be, microaggressions, people saying things about, your race or your culture in little ways that can be very traumatic. Medical trauma, that's a huge one I've seen in my practice.
What is
Where
that?
medical trauma, some kids have had medical stuff growing up, like let's say, lupus or diabetes. So they've had
Okay.
a lot of testing in the hospital. And I found that as a child, they haven't been able to speak up. Right. So they have this stuff done to them, the poking and the prodding, which needed to be done, but it just felt very invasive.
Right.
So, and now as an adult, they have a hard time going to medical appointments and being touched. So yeah, it's, trauma can happen with anything. So I had, there's been times where a teacher might have yelled at it, and the child was 7, not thinking it was a big deal, like sit down, or why did you bring that to school today? And the child says, oh, I can't do anything right.
Right.
Okay.
It seems like, or it sounds like it's so easy, for trauma to occur.
Oh, yes, yes, and I'm finding that.
Like
With
life is kind of
Yes,
traumatic. Is
yeah,
that fair to
yes,
say?
that's right, and we got racial trauma. I mean, even looking at the pandemic, right? I mean,
Mhm,
it's just been this is gonna I got trained at the perfect time because this we're gonna see this. We're gonna see it with our children, with us, with the adults. It's gonna change the way we see the world, having lived
mhm.
through this. Same with, um, uh, d- what was I gonna say? Racial trauma with the killing of, George Floyd, Breonna
Yeah.
Taylor, natural disasters. We've got hurricanes,
Mhm.
right? Like
Tornadoes.
tornadoes.
Yeah,
So just there's a lot.
there's
There's
a
a
lot.
lot. But the key
Absolutely.
is being stuck in it and afterwards seeing the people as bad, the world is bad. So that's, what defines trauma.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm. Great.
Yeah.
So the benefits of EMDR, we've defined it now.
hmm
What are some of the benefits that you've seen?
Well, the benefits, for what I've seen, are first of all, the person feels so much better,
Mhm.
right? And so what I want to go back to right quick is with trauma, it's in the body. It affects the way you feel and it affects your thoughts. Okay, so
Mhm.
those are some of the three that trauma changes. So when I work with someone with EMDR, they feel more confident, they're not as angry, their
Mhm.
body feels calmer. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they just always have this tightness in their throat, tightness in their chest, their body,
Mhm.
and they come back and they're like, wow, I haven't felt this good in a long time. Changes how they see the world, how they interact with people.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a lot of benefits. What else? Just feeling more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, feeling more relaxed and being able to see that yes, this trauma happened to me,
Mhm.
but that doesn't define me anymore. So
Mhm.
that's the switch. Instead of this happened to me, I'm fearful, I'm angry, and I
Mhm.
just am mad. And now it's like, okay, this happened to me,
Yeah.
but it just happened, and I can move forward.
Mhm. And as someone who has done EMDR in the
hmm
past, it's been like 6 years ago that I
hmm
that I did it. I
hmm
remember also feeling like on my
mm
first appointment, I had some relief.
Mhm.
So and I it was a bit, unexpected to
Yep.
have it work
Sure.
so
Sure.
so quickly.
Yes. Yes.
And I did have sessions after that,
Uh-huh.
but the speed I think is definitely a benefit
Yes, for sure.
that EMDR has.
For sure. Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Um, and in your opinion, why would someone choose EMDR over just talk therapy or
Mhm.
a combination of talk therapy and EMDR?
Yes, and I think the number one reason, like you just spoke to, is the speed,
Mm,
right? It's like people come in, if from start to finish, it's about 4 to 10 sessions.
mhm.
Where talk therapy can go on and on and on. So I ended up, there's some clients I was working with before EMDR. And then when I started doing EMDR, some of the stuff that we were trying to work through just, it changed,
Mhm.
right? But we had tried to talk through it. So, first of all, speed. Second of all, sometimes stuff is just too painful to talk about.
Yeah.
Like if they were in a assault situation, it's hard for them to describe. There might be some embarrassment, some
Mhm.
shame. So when you're
Mhm.
doing EMDR and they're just looking at the image themselves, they don't even have to talk, right? It's
Mhm.
not about talking, so they don't have to describe it.
Mhm.
What else? Efficiency, right? That's a huge one in that you can work on something traumatic in their lives and then the other parts of their lives open up.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's not
Yeah.
just, okay, now I've dealt with this. Oh my God, now I'm confident I can go for this job interview. Or now I feel better dating.
Mhm.
So I love that about EMDR.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Um, so, people are listening to us, listening to this conversation, and they're
hmm
getting really excited, really curious that this could be
Yeah,
something for them.
sure.
So, how, like, describe for us, like, what a typical session, EMDR session looks like
Okay.
working with you.
Sure, sure. So, the first thing is you want to do is you want to take their history. And sometimes if it's a new person, it takes about 2 sessions because I need to get to know them and see if they're
Mhm.
a candidate for EMDR. So you want the history taking, you want, why are they coming, right? And a lot of people that come aren't necessarily, I mean, I've had now a few coming for EMDR, but most people don't know about it. So if
Right.
I see something, it might be like, have you heard of this, and educate. So you go through, why they're coming to therapy, their, childhood, their support system, any
Mhm.
medical information, any mental health history, any
Mhm.
hobbies, what do they do for a living. So I go through this thorough intake. You want to make sure with EMDR, if they've had a history of suicide, self harm, it's
Mhm.
like something you really want to pay attention to.
Mhm.
Medical stuff like brain trauma, concussions. Again, have they healed from the concussions? What kind of brain trauma? Epilepsy, past
Mhm.
psychosis. So it's not, you don't just do EMDR on anybody. You got to make sure they're the right, migraines, pregnancy, because
Mhm.
EMDR can be intense. So you want to make
Mhm.
sure they're able to handle it.
Great.
Okay.
So if they're the right candidate, what happens next?
So then we go into preparation. So that's when I decide, okay, hey, and we have a conversation, educating them on EMDR, what it's like. And I make it really, really simple what I learned about EMDR. I say, look, things happen to our lives, the trauma. What
Mhm.
happens is it gets stuck here in the prefrontal cortex.
Mhm.
Okay. So it gets stuck. You shut this down, right? And you start working off the hippocampus, which is all about fight, flight, fear. So you start to live your life down here instead of processing this.
Mhm.
So the good thing about EMDR, and this I explained to them, is that so when you're sleeping, you have REM sleep, rapid eye movement, which the
Mhm.
eyes are going like this, and you're processing everything that happens during the day. So what we don't
Mhm.
want to do with EMDR is get that same eye movement. So you start processing the trauma.
Mhm.
Okay. So I educate them on that.
Mhm. And how do you do that? I know when I worked with it, my therapist, he used a wand to do the back and forth movement.
Because when I got trained, it was already the pandemic, so I wasn't taking clients in person.
Mhm.
So again, you can use the finger, the
Okay.
wand. There's a light bar, but what I do is that, well, like I said, you just want to get that eye movement going. So you can
Mhm.
also do that with what they call dual attention stimuli, I think, or bilateral stimulation. Sorry,
Mhm.
is that you tap on yourself,
Yeah.
and it gives that person control too. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm in control of my body. So we got the Wakanda embrace. We got people that do this, but just as long as it's your eyes are moving back and forth, and most of the time they keep their eyes closed. They can use
Mhm.
their feet. I know
Mhm.
with kids, when kids get to do a basketball, like if
Mhm.
a little kid's in a basketball,
Yeah.
just taking that basketball one, a little, what do you call that, Disney wand or something.
Mhm.
People use their legs, but as long as you're getting that back and forth stimulation to get the eyes going.
Mhm. It sounds like very gentle, the
Yes,
process.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's what helps with not, people go, oh my God, am I going to be re traumatized? And the answer is no, because it is a gentle movement. So when you're visualizing the image, it doesn't seem that scary because you're like, okay, it's a much of a calming effect, like you said. Besides the tapping, they definitely, so what happens is they pick the most distressing image for what trauma they want to deal with.
Mhm.
And you also get a feel for what they feel in their body when they see the image.
Mhm.
Okay. And you scale that from, 1 to 10, because really a lot of the trauma is stuck in people's
Mhm.
bodies, right?
Right.
Their throat, their chest, it all shows up there. You want to know their thought patterns. And that's
Mhm.
huge because what do
Mhm.
they think of themselves? I'm not worthy. It's my fault. I'm not lovable. So that's the other part of it. And then the emotions. I feel angry when I see the image. So you want to take all of that while they're looking at the image and tapping. And so when they start tapping, let's say they're on a 10 for everything. So the goal is to get them down to a, you know, 1 or 2. So, but taking all of that, because some people could still feel better in their body, but they still believe that they're unlovable. So it's really working with all three, the emotions, the thoughts that they have and the body sensations.
Mpho, thank you so much for joining me. And if folks want to learn more about you and your work, where can they find you?
Sure, they can find me at my website, peacefulthoughtstherapy.com. I'm also on Instagram at Mpho, Mpho underscore peaceful MFT. And then I think there are a few more places that you'll post in the notes. You can find
Yes.
me hanging out. So say hello, anybody that drops in, say that you found me on Stacyann's YouTube channel, and I'd love to chat with you.
And definitely check out the description box under this video so you get a direct link to connect with her. So
Yes.
thank you everyone for joining
All right.
us. Take care. Until
Thank
next time.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.